Welcome to another MetalMat podcast, and we are on day 3 of MetalWeen. And today we are going to be talking about a few ghosts, a few supernatural things. We are going to be counting down my top 10 favorite Danny Phantom episodes that ought to be interesting. And first of all, we're going to get to the usual shout-outs. Of course, Chucky's Playground, always a great place to be. It's like the greatest place on earth, really. We have great conversations there. And we're talking about who do we like more, Chucky or Tiffany. So we definitely have conversations like that all the time. And it's just a really cool place to be. So if you haven't signed up or registered, definitely do that. Join us, because we'd love to have you. And another shout out goes to my good friend Spanky and G's podcast, Movie Mayhem. Very good podcast, just a great podcast to listen to. Very entertaining, very enjoyable. He spotlights some good movies and some not so good movies. So, but anyway, it's always entertaining. The two of them just have great chemistry, so definitely check it out, because it's very entertaining. And so now it is time to shoot the shuffle. Number 1, Blackened by Metallica from Injustice for All. The intro to Metallica's 1988 album, and it's pretty good. Number 2, Rock and Roll All Night by Kiss from Dress to Kill. I just talked about Kiss yesterday or Wednesday, and so that's pretty funny. But like I said in that podcast, the studio version isn't so hot, and Rock and Roll All Night is really a song that was born to be played live. Number 3, It's All Good by Cold from 13 Ways to Bleed on Stage. A solid ballad from Cold's 2000 album. Cold, I always felt, is a pretty underrated alternative rock, post-grunge kind of band. If you haven't heard them, definitely check them out. Particularly their albums 13 Ways to Bleed on Stage and Year of the Spider. Though Superfiction was also really good as well. Number 4, Godzilla by Blue Oyster Cult from Spectres. Really good song by Blue Oyster Cult. Really, really good. Number 5, Simple Man by Leonard Skinner from Pronounced Leonard Skinner. Very good classic rock song from these Southern boys. Number 6, Whip It by Powerman 5000 from Copies, Clones, and Leprechauns. Really good cover album by Powerman 5000. I've been a fan of these guys since around mid-2000s or so. I first heard them on SmackDown vs. Raw when they did those 3 songs, Right Time, Last Man on Earth, and trying to think of what else. What was that song on there? And The Way It Is, that was it, The Way It Is. And also When Worlds Collide was on there. So that soundtrack was pretty much full of Powerman 5000. And, of course, they also had a song on the Bride of Chucky soundtrack called Son of X51. And a later version that would appear on their 1999 album, Tonight the Stars Revolt. But anyway, this is a good cover of a Devo song. A really, really cool rock remix of it. Number 7, All Day and All of the Night by the Kinks. Really good classic rock song, very enjoyable. Number 8, Drop Dead Gorgeous by Aerosmith from Just Push Play. Really good kind of futuristic sounding song by Aerosmith. It just has Joe Perry, the guitarist, on vocals, and it's pretty cool. Number 9, Young Grow Old by Creed from WWF Forcible Entry. This is a decent song from Creed, and it's on WWF Forcible Entry, which is probably the best WWF/WWE album out there. And finally, number 10, Metal by Jim Johnson from WWF The Music Volume 5. This was Kurt Angle's theme song when he was in WWE, and it's pretty cool. Very Americana, or very patriotic, I should say, not Americana. America. You know what these taste like, folks? You know what these taste like? America. So anyway, that's all for Shoot the Shuffle, and now it's time to talk about the main event. It's time to talk about Danny Phantom. Danny Phantom was one of my favorite cartoons when I was a child. I just really loved how supernatural it was, how unusual it was. This came from the creator of the Fairly OddParents, another Nicktoons series. And while there were some similarities between the two, specifically the designs of some of the characters, they couldn't possibly be more different. Nevertheless, both of them were supernatural kind of shows, with one featuring fairies and the other featuring ghosts. While Fairly OddParents was geared more towards the younger crowd, Danny Phantom was kind of geared towards a slightly older crowd. This didn't necessarily mean that kids couldn't watch it, but it wasn't necessarily for them. Nevertheless, I loved it when I was a kid. Mainly the first season. I have such memories of sitting in front of the TV watching Danny Phantom when I was a child. And it was just a great show. Unfortunately, it got canceled midway through its third season, so it never got the chance to really become a classic show. Meanwhile, the Fairly OddParents is still running, which, quite frankly, in my opinion, should have been canceled a little while ago. Nevertheless, Danny Phantom is a bit of an underrated show in my view, and today I'm going to count down my top 10 favorite episodes. So let's get started. Number 10, Girls' Night Out from Season 3. This is the only episode from Season 3 that's going to be on here, because Season 3 wasn't that great of a season, mainly because it got canceled midway through. Nevertheless, I thought this was a really entertaining episode. The plot revolves around three of the female ghosts, Ember, Penelope Spectra, and Kitty, all using their powers, their ghost powers, to make all the men of Amity Park disappear, with the exception of Danny and Jack, who were just away. And the subplot revolves around Danny constantly having to battle Skulker, while he and his father Jack are on a fishing trip. I really like this episode because I really like the combination of the female ghosts. I thought it worked out really well. All three of them had surprisingly great chemistry, and I'm surprised that they didn't really do more things like this on here. They did sort of ghost combinations in other episodes, like Pirate Radio. I think that was the name, Pirate Radio, where Ember teams up with Youngblood, who was voiced by a young Taylor Lautner, I might add, who is probably best known for not wearing a shirt in the Twilight series and being some type of weird werewolf ghost that's attracted to babies. Twilight is such a weird series, I just have to be honest. Maybe a future episode will revolve around that series. But anyway, we're kind of getting off topic. Anyway, this is a pretty good episode from Season 3, probably the best. Number 9, Teacher of the Year from Season 1. Season 1 is definitely my favorite season of Danny Phantom. Just all types of good episodes here. And here, Danny and his friends are addicted to an online game. I'm not sure exactly what it's trying to parody, but it's just like some kind of generic online game. Meanwhile, Danny has to study for a test, like a very important test. And meanwhile, Technus, the master of all technology, is in the game. Well, uses his ghost powers in the game and to try and take over the internet. And it's really cool because you also get to see some interaction between Danny and his teacher, Mr. Lancer, played by Ron Perlman, who's probably best known for playing Hellboy, which is kind of funny when you think about it. But it really does kind of show you that, yeah, Lancer, while he is a bit of an antagonist in the series, it does kind of show that he really does care for his students. You know, he kind of has like that hidden side to him. You know, so I really like that aspect of the episode. And everything else is really entertaining as well. Number 8, One of a Kind from Season 1. This episode revolves around Skulker. This is the first appearance of Skulker. And he's kind of this ghost hunter who's much more competent than the actual ghost hunters. And he discovers Danny Phantom, who is a half human, half ghost, which is like a rarity, you know, in the Ghost Zone universe, you know. and like Skulker considers him sort of a prize in a way. And so throughout the episode, there's all kinds of traps and all types of things that Skulker is doing to try and capture Danny, but he is never able to really succeed. And it's just a really entertaining episode. It's kind of a battle of wits in some ways, and it's really good. Number 7, The Ultimate Enemy. This is by far the darkest Danny Phantom episode. It's another really important test. Like, this is like a big important test they has to study for. And Danny ends up cheating on the test, and that ends up making the entire future look very bleak, and having Danny become a super villain. And it's just a really dark episode, because like everybody in the future is pretty much dead. You know, all the friends are dead, and it's just a very bleak universe. And with the help of Clockwork, who was the master of time, I think, Danny's able to stop him and make the right decision. And it's a really dark episode, but it also has a light at the end of the tunnel, which is what all dark episodes, should be. And it's really cool to see a really dark kind of Danny Phantom episode, because the show is kind of dark to begin with. With ghosts, so obviously people have died in there if people are ghosts. And so I just really like the aspect of this episode. Number 6, Reality Trip from Season 2. Finally, some Season 2 love. Season 2 really wasn't that bad. While it wasn't quite as good as Season 1, it was still pretty solid on its own. In this one, the villain is Freak Show. I'm trying to think of what the actual title is. He's like the ringmaster for a freak show, and this is like his second appearance, I think, because his first appearance was in I don't know what the episode was. It was like the final episode of Season 1. I can't remember the name at this time, but Control Freaks. That was it, Control Freaks. But this was the second episode, and Freak Show like steals some gems, and Danny Phantom has to spend his entire summer capturing the gems again. And Freak Show is an interesting villain because he's not a ghost, and I think that's what's really interesting about him, because I think he's one of the few Danny Phantom villains that's not necessarily a ghost. He's really just human. But he's just so out there and so weird that he might as well be considered a ghost. And I think the actual character is actually jealous that he isn't a ghost. He's very envious of them. So pretty good villain and a pretty good episode from Season 2. Number 5, Rainstorm. This is a really good episode from Season 1. I think this was the first TV movie for Danny Phantom. The episode revolves around this villain, who I can't remember the name. I cannot remember the name of this villain, but, well, whatever. Vlad Plasmius wakes him up, and he pretty much takes the whole town by storm. And Danny actually assembles all the villains that he's faced so far in that season together to stop him. And I always thought this was a really cool thing to do. I always loved how all the villains kind of put their differences aside with Danny and faced off against a much bigger villain this time around. And it's just a really cool one. And the animation is great as well. Although there is some CGI in there, like very obvious CGI, it's still pretty good. And it's just very grand. And it's a very, very cool TV movie episode. Number 4, Maternal Instincts. This is a really cool one from Season 1. Danny and his mother, Maddie, go on a trip to somewhere, which is actually a trap by Vlad Plasmius, or Vlad Masters in his human form. Hold on. Yeah, okay, I should probably tell you about Vlad Plasmius. Vlad Plasmius was like Danny's dad's best friend or so, and now he's pretty much Danny's arch enemy, basically. So, and he pretty much has the hots for Maddie, and so he's always trying to put the moves on her, and it's really funny as how he just fails. But in this episode, they get stuck at Vlad's cabin, and Vlad neutralizes Danny's powers for a few hours, so he's actually without him. And it's just really cool to see them battle in a very new kind of setting. It's really cool. Number three, Identity Crisis from season 2. Really cool little episode. Danny finds it a bit too hard to be both human and ghost. So he decides to split himself in two, which results in him simply being just human and the other one being superhero. And what I like about the superhero is that he kind of parodies, superheroes like Superman. He talks in like this really over-the-top way. And like, I've never felt better in my life. It's just really over-the-top superhero stuff like that. And I love how they kind of satirize that whole thing. And Danny, and the human Danny, on the other hand, talks just like a total hipster. He has like some type of mullet, and he's like, "Yo, dude, whatever." It's just really funny. It's really funny to kind of see the interactions between both of them, especially when they're trying to hide at least one Danny from the parents, and it's just really cool, just really funny. So that's a really enjoyable episode from season 2. I'd probably say the best from season 2. Number 2, My Brother's Keeper from season 1. It's Spirit Week at Amityville High School. I think that's what it's called. I think that's what the high school is called. But and it's like I want to say like a therapist, I guess. I'm really not sure what the actual title is, but I think it's therapist. Penelope Spector, I think that's the name, and her assistant Bertrand are busy counseling the students. But she actually makes them more miserable rather than making them feel better. In reality, Spector is, of course, a ghost who feeds on the students' misery to retain her youth. And I always thought that was a really cool, I always thought she was a really cool villain. They never really did a lot with her, but I always thought that was pretty cool. I always liked her ghost form. Her ghost form is really, really cool. And it's just a really enjoyable episode. And finally, number 1, my favorite Danny Phantom episode of all time, Fan the Flames. And it probably doesn't really come as a surprise, considering that the episode is very much kind of rock-oriented. This new villain, this new ghost, Ember, and she's kind of a rock musician, kind of, though it's probably more power pop or pop rock or whatever the kids would listen to back in 2004. But yeah, so she ends up kind of controlling the students with her music. And whenever they say her name, her hair gets even bigger, and she gets much more stronger. And it's pretty cool. And I always liked the idea of a rock ghost. That was pretty cool as well. And she also makes Danny and Sam fall in love with each other, or at least Danny in love with Sam. Sam is not really affected by it since she's wearing fin phones, which blocks out ghost signals. So it's really funny to kind of see Danny just fall all over Sam and stuff like that. And it's a really cool episode. Definitely check it out. So that's all for this episode. In conclusion, I really like Danny Phantom. I think it's probably one of my favorite shows of all time. Whenever I watch it, it just brings back memories of me, sitting in my room watching it back in 2004, 10 years ago, which, wow, where has the time gone? I feel really old right now. But, yeah. So if you haven't seen it, definitely check it out. It's pretty cool. It's a pretty cool show. So that's all for day 3 of MetalWeen, and I'll see you tomorrow for day 4.